let's do a quick review. We are on chapter 13. We are discussing on page 55. We are discussing the Beinani. We did the first page 55 of chapter 13 last time. I'm just going to go over it quickly. And when we were discussing Beinanim, we realized that the Beinani is the same creature as a Rasha. What do I mean is the same creature as the Rasha? Emotionally and intellectually, he has the same desires as a Rasha. His evil inclination is knocking at the door, could be constantly. And you know what? Theoretically, could be more than a Rasha. It's possible that the Rasha is only going to get attacked once in 3 years by evil inclination, in theory. And it's possible that the Beinani is going to get attacked every second. The difference between the Beinani and the Rasha is that the Beinani took a decision that whenever he hears the knocking on the door, he's not going to let it in. He's not going to open the door. He's not going to open the door and carry out the suggestion of the evil inclination. Okay, that's where we were last time. And we also said that the Beinani on his own, let's put it this way. A person, if you just let the creature, human being, fight against his evil inclination, there's always going to be a situation where the evil inclination will win. Always. I can always give him a situation where the evil inclination is going to win against him.
You do what?
That the evil inclination is going to win.
If you do what?
If the evil inclination will suggest something wrong, and the person, he will always win. Not always. There will always be a situation where he could win. The reason why he doesn't win is because when God sees that you put a fight, God comes and immediately helps. Without God's help, the evil inclination is stronger. There will be situations where you're not going to be able to pass. A Beinani doesn't have power on his own. The evil inclination is going to be stronger than the godly inclination by him. It's the godly part, God comes in and helps the godly soul over the evil soul.
How is it Torah Tavlin?
Torah Tavlin, you know what? Even with Torah Tavlin, that's still not going to be good enough because God still needs to come. And why? You can see it from your life. What talks more to you? Your life or tefillin? There you go. It talks more to us. Where do you feel more alive? When you eat a good meal or when you light Hanukkah candles? Yeah. I get more excited by a hamburger than I get excited by doing a commandment sometimes. Yeah, that's the problem. Okay. Shalom Aleichem. So, this is why we say to the Beinani that no matter what, if you go throughout, a person finds himself going through life, and he's a Beinani, and he notices after 10, 15 years, his evil inclination doesn't attack him. For the last 10 or 50 years, the evil inclination doesn't bother him. So he might think to himself, you know what? I'm a tzaddik. That's what he might think to himself. The Beinani, he didn't have a bad thought for the last 10 years. So over here, we learned last time, this is where we ended last time, it tells us, nevertheless, you should look at yourself kerasha. Don't you think for a moment you're a tzaddik. that the evil inclination is completely gone from your body. Yeah? No, look at yourself as if you are the same Rasha, the same animal as a Rasha. In other words, you have evil inclination, and we're going to discuss soon how come it didn't attack you. So this is where we were last time. We are on page 57 at the top. How you should look at yourself? כאילו מהותו ועצמותו של הרע. You should look at yourself as if the essence of the bad inside the person, הוא בתקפו ובגבורתו, is still there, it's still alive. בחלל השמאלי, in the left ventricle. So the question is, if it's alive, how come you don't hear it? How come you don't zeo? So think about it like a call. Sometimes the call on the outside is called to the touch. And you might think that there's no fire inside. But all it takes is one wind, and the whole thing will reignite all over again. So he might think he has no more evil inclination. It's been called for the past 5 years. I didn't have. He says, don't think that way. Because if you're not aware that it's actually there, you might not be careful and not fight against it when it comes out. ולא חלף והלך ממנו מאומה. It did not pass completely. ואדרבה. And he tells you, and I'll tell you something. It is impossible that you are better than you were yesterday. A person who's 50 years old is not better than when he was 13 years old. How do I know that? Because for the past, from the age of 13 to the age of 50, he ate, he drank, he enjoyed life, he rested. All these things contribute to whom? Contribute to the animal soul. He took actions to take care of his animal souls. So if until the age of 13 he only did it 1,000 times or 10,000 times, since then he did it 100,000 times. So, and every time he exercises, he's keeping his animal soul alive, he becomes more animalistic. He increases the power of the animal soul. ואדרבה, נתחזק יותר בהמשך הזמן. He became even stronger throughout the ages. He enjoyed life. שנשתמש בו הרבה. He enjoyed it, he used it a lot. How? When he ate, באכילה, בשתייה, when he drank. ושאר ענייני עולם הזה. He had relationship with the wife. We're not talking about a tzaddik over here. I don't know anybody who has relationship with his wife and is thinking about God. ואף מי שבתורת... So it tells you what happens if the guy is not interested in eating. He's not interested in drinking. It really doesn't care. There are some guys who are not big eaters. They don't care about food. There are some guys who don't care about women, about relationships so much. Yeah, they will do it, but it's not their, they don't have enjoyment of them. And you know what this guy loves? This guy loves learning Torah. That's what he loves. He sits down from morning to night, and you know what he does? All he does is learn Torah. When there's a commandment to do, he runs to do the commandment. When he has to take care of his family, do the job, he runs to do the job. But most of the time, when he has free time, what does he do? He opens up and look, he learns Gemara. That's where his life is. That's where he enjoys. So it says, ואף מי שבתורת השם חפצו, even somebody who desires God constantly, ויהגה בו יומם ולילה, to such an extent that he made sure he has enough money. And all he does all day long is what? He learns Torah. 18 hours a day, every day of his life. He enjoys it. And he learns it lishma. He doesn't learn it so that people are going to call him a rabbi, or people are going to give him respect, or that he's going to show the other guy that he knows better than him. He learns it for the right reason, because God commanded. He says, "Ein zo hochacha klal," even such a person, that every day he learns Torah 18 hours a day, and he doesn't have any foreign thoughts, not about food, not about drinking, not about relationship, he doesn't care. Even that is not a proof that he doesn't have even inclination anymore. There's no problem. But he might think that he's a tzaddik. Don't think you're a tzaddik. Don't think for 1 second that there's no evil inclination inside of you. But it is possible that the evil inclination is right there. In the left ventricle. רק שלבושיו שמחשבה, דיבור ומעשה של נפש הבהמית, but only that the thought, speech and action of the animal soul אינם מתלבשים במוח והפה והידיים. They don't think about it, he's stuck in neutral. The engine is working, but the gears to catch to the brain or to catch to the emotions don't kick in. In other words, it doesn't kick in to turn the thought to come into your mind or the emotion to come into your mind. The engine is working. It's idling. All it needs to do is somebody needs to push the gear shift, and it's going to jump in. And he's thinking, since he didn't jump in for the last 5 years, the engine is not there anymore. Says, don't make that mistake. Your engine is working, but the clutch is pushed in. If for 1 second you're going to take your foot off the clutch, you know what's going to happen? You're going to have those emotions. You're going to have those thoughts. ושאר איברי הגוף. Why? מפני השם שנתן שליטה וממשלה למוח על הלב. Because let's put it this way. You know what? I'm not going to explain it now, I'm going to explain it in 5 lines from now. He's going to explain it himself over there. ולכן נפש האלוקית שבמוח, and therefore the godly soul that's in the brain, מושלת בעיר קטנה. At that time, she's governing on the small city. The small city is your body. איברי הגוף כולם, all the limbs of the body, שיהיו לבוש ומרכבה לשלוש לבושיה. That they're going to be a garment, they're going to be a chariot to the 3 garments, thought, speech and action, שהתלבשו בהם שמחשבה, דיבור ומעשה שתרי"ג מצוות התורה. And that's why it looks like the guy 24 hours, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, he's only concerned about godliness, Torah and mitzvahs. But אבל מהותה ועצמותה של נפש האלוקית, but don't make a mistake to think that the godly soul אין לה שליטה וממשלה על מהותה ועצמותה של הנפש הבהמית בבינוני. That the godly soul now can tell the animal soul what to do. No, it doesn't have control. The animal soul is not subservient to the godly soul. It happens to be that right now the person is going, it's a Benoni, he's in earnest. So he's going with his godly soul. As long as he's going with his godly soul, and he's been going like this for 5 years straight, fighting constantly, and he thinks because he's fighting constantly, the evil inclination is not there. For 1 second he relaxes, you know what's going to be? Click, it will click in. In other words, if you will let the animal be who the animal is, the creature you are, you're just going to take 1 breath, don't go that's it. The animal soul is going to immediately come in. When does he have governing? When does he go and he feels godliness? So we already said he has it. כאם בשעה שאהבת השם הוא בהתגלות ליבו. When he davens to God at the time of prayer, at the time of saying Shema, When he's concentrating on connection to God, the evil inclination, we say, there is one time where a Beinoni and a Tzaddik internally are the same. And what is that time? We already said, it's the time of prayer. At the time of prayer, a Beinoni feels full love to God, just like a Tzaddik. Not on the same level, but he feels only godliness. He doesn't feel other things. For that moment. Why? Because he's actively putting energy into the system. He's not relaxing. He knows this is the time now to connect. So he's thinking, connect. So as long as he's connecting, there's no evil inclination. Beitim mezumanim. At specific times, auspicious times. כמו בשעת התפילה, for example, at the time of davening, וכיוצא בה, or learning Torah, or doing a commandment. ואף גם זאת הפעם אינה רק שליטה וממשל לבד. And even in that, you should know, he's not doing it all, it's not 100% like the tzaddik. כדכתיב, ולאום מלאום יאמץ. Even at that time, it's maybe he's doing it 98%. He just doesn't feel the other 2% of the evil inclination. כשזה קם, זה נופל. In other words, the evil inclination is still there. וכשזה קם חולו, what happens? שהנפש האלוקית מתאמצת ומתגברת, when the godly soul strains itself to connect to God, על נפש הבהמית, and it pushes away the animal soul, במקור הגבורות, and he does it, we're going to learn later on. Now he tells us what happens. Later on we're going to learn how to do it. It has to be done במקור הגבורות, through bina, through contemplation, through specific meditation, which we're going to learn later on. שהיא בינה. What is he supposed to look at? להתבונן בגדולת השם. He's supposed to look at the greatness of God. ולהוליד, he's supposed to bring forth אהבה עזה להשם. Great love towards God. He needs to make born in himself a great love to God. כרשפי אש בחלל הימני שבליבו. Like fire in the right ventricle in his heart. So let's explain this just a little bit. The best example you can think of, everybody remembers when he was 15, 14, 16 years old and he fell in love for the first time with a woman. You remember that every time she walked into the room, you started sweating, your palms started sweating, your heartbeat started going like this. If you don't, when you daven to God, if you don't have the same reactions, you're not a Beinoni. A Beinoni, every time he prays to God, has that visceral reaction in his body. That's what he actually feels. A great love towards godliness. Ve'az, and then, itkafia, when he feels the great love, just like when you were 16 years old, you weren't able to concentrate on anything else besides that lady. Also the Beinoni is not able to concentrate on anything else besides God. ואז itkafia sitra acha שבכלל השמאלי. Because he loves God to such an extent, he's not, the evil inclination is not coming into being. It's not that it's not there. It's there. He's just now concentrating on that. אבל לא נתבטל לגמרי בבינוני. But don't think to yourself, he tells the Beinoni for 1 second, that it's completely gone. Where is it gone? אלא בצדיק. It's only gone in a tzaddik. שנאמר בו, that by a tzaddik it says, וליבי חלל בקרבי. This is what King David said it about himself. It says, my heart is an empty space inside of me. The word halal has a double connotation. The word halal means an empty space. The word halal also means somebody that was killed in war. Halalei tzal. Halalei tzal. It has a double connotation. It says, why is King David evil inclination in an empty space? Because he killed it in war. There was a specific way King David killed this evil inclination We're not going to do it the way King David did. We're going to learn different ways how to do it. Vehu, only a tzaddik mo'es berah v'son'o betachlit. Only a tzaddik completely hates the evil inclination. See, a Beinani, even though he loves God, he does love God, he doesn't hate a good steak. He doesn't hate it. Yeah? A Beinani doesn't hate having a relationship with his wife. He doesn't hate it. Yeah? The pleasure of it, he doesn't hate. Yeah? The animalistic part of it, he doesn't hate. Maybe he's not proud of it, but he doesn't hate it. He's not like the tzaddik who completely, the animalistic behavior, he despises. Or not completely, like a tzaddik sheno gamur. So how come by the Beinani, it didn't attack him for the past 5 years? Because the evil inclination is smart. The evil inclination never picks up a fight where he knows he might lose. Why? Because if he loses the fight, he just became weaker. He will wait, like the Arabs, he will wait 50 years, he will wait 60 years. When he will see you vulnerable, then he go. So a person is not on his guard for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. He thinks he's a tzaddik. When he thinks he's then the evil inclination will come in, when he is least expected. But in the Beinani, hu domeh ke'adam sheyashen. It is just like he went to sleep. He says, I'm resting right now. I'm taking a break. I'm on vacation for 2 weeks, or I'm on vacation for 2 years. I'll come back after 2 weeks. We'll see the situation. We'll reassess. שיכול לחזור, we're on page 59, וליאור משנתו. It is possible for him to come and to reawaken from his sleep. כך הרע בבינוני, this is how the evil, the bad in a בינוני, הוא כישן בחלל השמאלי בשעת קריאת שמע. It is sleeping. When is it sleeping? At the time that you are pushing, at the time that you're praying, at the time that you're davening, at the time that you are putting energy into the system to connect to God. שליבו בוער באהבת השם, ואחר כך יכול להיות חוזר וניעור. And then it is possible that later on, during the day, it's going to come reawaken, or during the week, or during the month, or during the year. Now we're going to go back to the famous story. If you remember, in the beginning of the Tanya, we discussed Rabbi. Rabbi said he was a Beinani. Now, do you remember Rabbi? Rabbi was the guy who the angel of death was running after him and was trying to grab him, and he couldn't grab him. The angel of death didn't have control over Rabbi. And when Rabbi came to this Gemara, Rabbi says to his students, my students, you should know, you want an example of who's a Beinani? I am a Beinani. And all his students told him, Rabbi, if you're a Beinani, then the rest of us, you just killed everybody else. You made us all Reshaim. The question is, how can Rabbi think that he's a Beinani? Now we're actually going to understand. Rabbi knew. Rabbi is not a liar. Rabbi knew that he didn't have a single emotional or intellectual thought or emotions to go against God for the past 40 years. He didn't have any. So why is he saying he's a Beinani? Why is not thinking he's a tzaddik? Now we understand. ולכן היה רבא, and therefore Rabbi was מחזיק עצמו כבינני. He actually, when he said he was a Beinani, he meant it. He actually thought he was Beinani. He actually made a mistake. He was a tzaddik. But as we can see, a Beinani and a tzaddik, there's no way to know. אף דלא פסיק פומיה מגרסה. Just like we learned in the story that I told you, that even when he was running away from the Romans who were trying to kill him, Rabbi, at the time he's running away from the Romans, he's going over what he's learning. Not to waste time. Why? Am I running away and I'm going to waste my time? No, so he's running and says, okay, now what? Yeah? Now, at least as I'm running, I can say, I can learn Torah. So he's in his head. He wouldn't, even during the run that he's running away not to get killed, that's what he's doing. ובתורת השם חפצו יומם ולילה, and all he did is learn Torah day and night, בחפצה וחשקה ותשוקה ונפש שוקה להשם, like a tzaddik. So why are you thinking you're a בינוני? באהבה רבה, כבשעת קריאת שמע ותפילה, like in the time of Krishma ותפילה. And this is what Rabbi thought. Rabbi thought, and legitimately he thought it. He says, look at my life. I am not a businessman. I'm a Torah scholar. And I love what I do. You know what I do all day long? All day long, I put energy in to connect and to think about God. That's what I do. From morning to night, until I exhaust myself and go to sleep. That's what I do every day. If for one moment though, you will tell me, hey, you become a businessman, you do this, then the evil inclination is going to come back in. In other words, he was thinking, even if the entire world tells you that you're a tzaddik, you have to hold yourself as if you're a rasha. Because if you're not completely extinguished it might come. He happened to be to completely extinguish it. But he was thinking, it might not be completely extinguished, therefore I am a Beinoni. V'nidme be'enav. So Rabbi thought, you know what I am? How come I don't have evil inclination for the past 40 years? Simple. Because I learn Torah and I pray every moment of the day. That's what I do. I'm not required to go into the marketplace where there's women walking around. I'm not required to go to sustain my family, where I need to cut corners maybe to bring some more bread into the table because I've got hungry children at home. That's not my requirement. So because of that, I might be a Beinoni that is davening all day long. כבינוני המתפלל כל היום, וכמאמר רז"ל. And now, because of this, we're going to understand another teaching of the sages. There's a teaching of the sages that says, Halevai, it says, God says, I wish, Halevai, sheitpalel Adam kol hayom kulo. I wish that a person will pray all day long. What does it mean, I wish that a person will pray all day long? Now we have a different connotation of what it means. It doesn't mean pray and not go to work. It's okay if you want to go to work. And when you go to work and you have free time, because work itself is a mitzvah, but you have 5 extra mitzvah, immediately push it in. In other words, the person is in constant putting in energy to connect to God all day long. It doesn't stop. All day long he's thinking about one thing. How am I connected to God? And that's what he does all day long. Then if a person lives this way, putting in energy all day long, the evil inclination is not going to be attacked because he's putting energy in. Okay. והנה מידת אהבה זו האמורה בבינונים, this level of love to God that we said about בינונים, בשעת התפילה, at the time of davening, על ידי התגברות הנפש האלוקית, through the godly soul becoming stronger on the animal soul. But why is it becoming stronger? Because you're constantly pushing energy in. הנה, לגבי מדרגת הצדיקים עובדי השם באמת לאמיתו, but when you compare that to the level of the righteous people, those who serve God really, אין בחינת אהבה זו נקרא בשם עבודת אמת. When a tzaddik looks at the way a Beinoni serves God, he laughs. He calls it, you're a faker. You're a liar. You're not even anything. Why? See, a Beinani, let's talk about the word emet and sheker first. The word emet in Hebrew means truth. The word sheker means a lie. If you notice, the word emet is the first letter, Aleph is the first letter of the alphabet, Mem is the middle one, and Taf is the last one. Which tells you emet means that it always was truth, it is truth now, and it will always be true. That's what the word emet means. Haya, hove, and hiye. It always was. 2 plus 2 equals to 4 yesterday, it's equal to 4 today, it's equal to 4 tomorrow. It will be equal to 4 tomorrow. It never changes. Yeah, that's what the word emet means. A tzaddik looks at the Beinani and he tells you, you serve God in truth, you're a liar. Why? When you push in energy into your system, you love God. A second later, you don't push energy into the system, you know what you love now?
Steak.
Thank you, you like steak? So don't tell me that that's your truth. Truth means I, the tzaddik, have truth. I love God before, I love God now, and I love God tomorrow. You only love God. It's like, you know what it's like? It's like somebody who comes over to his wife and he tells her, honey, I love you. Yeah? And then he walks out of the house and he looks at all the other women. Do you really love her? What do you mean? All of a sudden you have emotions for other women, and you say to your wife, so this is what your wife tells you. This is what you call love? This is the way a tzaddik looks at the Beinani. Says, this is what love is. Yes, when you're with God, yeah, when you're with me in bed, roses and petals and everything good, and you do feel love. But don't call it true love.
אבל הבינוני doesn't control his thought. He does control his thought.
Yeah, but he controls it.
He doesn't think about
He actively. He doesn't actively. The thought that she's beautiful is jumping in. He pushes it away immediately.
Yeah.
But the thought, yeah, but so she's telling him, "You love me." Yeah, that's called love. That's called love. When you're thinking about every other woman in the street, and then you tell me you love me. This is not a true love. The tzaddik, that's a true love. He doesn't see other women. He only see God. You see everybody else, and you only want me when we're in bed together. This is what the tzaddik tells the Beinani. You only love God when you spend time together. As soon as you leave God, as soon as you go out of your house, yeah, and you're in the street, you're in your own natural being, you forgot about God. All of a sudden, emotionally, intellectually, it's not God. So don't call it real. אין בחינת אהבה זו נקרא בשם ודעת אמת. It says, according to the tzaddik, this kind of love is not called a true love. It's not called true service of God, מאחר שחולפת ועוברת אחר התפילה. Because it passes on after davening. It's gone. If it's gone after davening, don't call it true. It's not true love. You can't love your God and love his enemies at the same time. It doesn't work this way. If 5 seconds afterwards you love the enemy, don't tell me you really love God. Vechtiv, and the tzaddik tells the Beinani, it's written, Sfat emet tirkon la'ad. It says, the language of truth stays forever. It doesn't change. If you really love God, you would always love God. There's no such thing as loving God now and 2 seconds later loving a steak. It doesn't work this way. You're a hypocrite. Don't tell me you love God. ועד ארגיע לשון שקר. It says, you are speaking lies. In other words, one second you love God, the other second you love steak. It doesn't work this way. And now the Alter Rebbe says to the Beinani, the tzaddik is wrong. He's wrong. I know he thinks this way about you. That's what the Rebbe says. But I'm going to explain why your service of God is emet. He thinks it's not emet. Now, when the Alter Rebbe says he thinks it's not emet, he's talking about himself, right? Alter Rebbe is a tzaddik. Yeah, he says some tzaddikim might think that your service of God is not emet. I'm going to explain to you now, it says the Beinoni, why it is emet. Yeah, even though for 1 second you're with God, for the next second you're not, it's still called emet. How? ואף על פי כן, and he says, nevertheless, לגבי מדרגת הבינונים, when it comes to the level of the בינוני, נקראת עבודה תמה באמת. I call it a completely truthful service of God. This is what you're doing. לאמיתו, real truth. Don't think it's not real truth what you're doing. It's true that for 1 second you love God and for the next second you love the steak. And it's still true love. Says, what do you mean it's true love? איש כפי מדרגתו. It says, every בינוני according to his own level. במדרגת הבינונים, because there's many levels of בינונים like we discuss. והריני קורא באהבתם שבתפילתם גם כן שפת אמת. This is also called truth. When they feel love of God, when they daven, it's not false, it's truth. Tikon la'ad, you can say it lasts forever. How does it last forever if 2 seconds later you have the emotions for other things? Ho'il, it says, I'll tell you why it's true. Ho'il ubekoach nafsham ha'elokit. Because it says, you always have the potential. The Beinoni always has within him the potential לחזור ולעורר בחינת אהבה זו לעולם. Every time the evil inclination comes and attacks him and tells him, think about God, you know what the Beinoni has the power to? Immediately put energy into the picture. He has full control of whenever the evil inclination comes and attacks, he immediately comes and go away, and charges himself and connects himself to God. In other words, he always has in potential the ability to chase away the evil inclination. And the Beinoni, it's not only in potential. Every time the evil inclination comes, that's what he does. This is the service of the Beinoni, and it's a true service.
It's harder than the tzaddik.
It's much harder. Much harder. בהתגברותה בשעת התפילה מדי יום ביום. So it says, first of all, a Beinoni, in order to get to the level to feel love, we think, a Beinoni, it's not like a tzaddik. See, a tzaddik doesn't need to prepare to pray. He loves God already. He comes into prayer with love of God. A Beinoni, you know how he comes into prayer? The same way we come into prayer. There's no difference. There's no difference between us and a Beinoni. A Beinoni comes to prayer exactly the same way as us. And he needs to now put energy into the system, contemplate about godliness, think about godliness. Every time the evil inclination is coming, chase it away, continue to contemplate. It takes time. It takes effort. The difference between him and us, when we wake up in the morning, we don't tell ourselves, I'm going to have love of God today in davening. I'm not going to feel excited to that extent. And truthfully, we're going to see later on, because we're not liars. Maybe we cannot get to that level. Later on, we're going to see what are the steps in order for us to get into that level. Midei yom, beyom. So a Beinoni, every day he gets up לנום על ידי הכנה ראויה לכל נפש. Every Beinoni is a different level. So some Beinonis will need to prepare for 10 hours before davening in order to have a fire. Some Beinoni maybe only need to wait for 10 minutes to contemplate. Yeah, this is why in the old time the prayer was only 18. Only the Amida was prayer, and throughout the ages, the sages added more and more and more and more and more and more. Why? Because it took people more time to get to the level of love of God. They need to contemplate, think about the angels, the whole thing about this. The angels are calling Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh. They contemplate about the things. In order to what? So for them to attain that love of God, it took a long time. So they add more and more and more. And today, even the prayer is not enough. What do we need? We need to learn some Chassidus before davening in order to get to that level. Kfi arko madrigat umadrigato. So everybody, according to his level, needs to put the energy into davening. Kehine midat emet hi midato shel Yaakov. The truth, the level of truth, emet, is the attribute of Yaakov. Hanikra bariach hatichon, that is called bariach hatichon, hamavriach min hakatze lakatze. Let me explain what this is a little bit. When they put up the tabernacle, so there were beams standing this way. So in order for the beams not to move in and out, to fall in and out, there was also a beam. They had hoops on the top and hoops in the bottom, and there was a beam that they put. There was like a round stick they would put throughout the top and a round stick throughout the bottom. There was also a round stick in the middle of all those beams, and the round stick in the middle was called bariach hatichon. Because why it was called bariach hatichon? Because there was a miracle in it. What was the miracle? It was one long stick, but the stick, you put it in on one side, and it turned around. When it got to the corner, it turned around and around again to there. So that was called the bariach hatichon. Yeah, we learned later on why you need such a miracle, because Abraham is chesed, Yitzchak is gvura. Chesed and gvura are complete opposites. So if they're complete opposites, how do you put them together? Two complete opposites. That's what Yaakov did. Yaakov took all the advantages of Abraham without the disadvantage. He took all the advantages of Yitzchak without the disadvantages, and he put them together. This is what the bariach hatichon. This level, it says, is also can be found within the Beinani himself. How? Because in potential, every time he knows his work. He knows at the moment he walks, see, a Beinani knows my job today, from the moment I wake up in the morning, you know what my job is? To put energy into the system to love God. That's my job. So the fact that once in a while I have an emotional feeling towards bed or an intellectual thought towards bed, that has nothing to do with my job. My job is to do what? As soon as it comes in, put energy into the system. Put energy into the system. That's my job. The fact that something comes in, that doesn't take the truth from my service of God. The service of God is true. When I'm required to daven, I'm required to daven. When I'm required to work and the evening connection comes in, I'm required to put energy into the system. It doesn't matter. In other words, it's a true service of God. Don't say that it's not a true service of God. It is just as true as a tzaddik. In other words, the Beinani says, what do you think? When I daven, it is me who's davening? It's only because I put that's why I feel there. So the whole day, this is what I do. I put gas into the system. That's my entire being. So don't tell me it's not true. Of course it's true. This is who I am. This is the kind of service I need to do. I'm a Beinani. This is what a Beinani is. Now we understand what a Beinani. A Beinani is a person who constantly grinds. That's what he does. He is in a grinder constantly, all the time. The difference between us and a Beinani, again, I'm saying it many times because it's very important, we are exactly a Beinani. Don't make a mistake to think we're not. We didn't make a decision to be one. In other words, we gave up on the beginning. We said, we're not grinding. I'll grind. Yeah, when I'm comfortable, I'll grind. When I'm not comfortable, I won't grind. And you know, it's a truth. Because if I'll grind too much, I'm going to give up. And it's the truth what I said. And it's the evil inclination talking. Both of them are true. It's true what I said, because if I grind too much, I will give up. That's true. And the evil inclination tells you that. The difference is that I can grind much more than I grind. That's the problem. See, the evil inclination always tells you grind less than you're supposed to. You're not on that level. You know, it tells you, what do you think? You're on that level? You're less on the level. If you grind too much, and it's a very delicate balance, because if you do grind too hard, you are going to get burnt out. So that's why there has to be a complete balance to know, to grind hard, but not to burn out. It needs to be both. And we're going to see the system later on. How do you find out if I'm too much grinding, if I'm too less grinding, how should I grind, and so on. That's what is going to explain later on. מן הקצה אל הקצה, מרום המעלות. This is בריח התיכון. This is the true level of a בינוני. ומדרגות עד סוף כל דרגין. ובכל מעלה ומדרגה מבריח תוך נקודה אמצעית. And in every level it goes through the middle way, שהוא נקודה ובחינת מידת אמת שלה, ומידת אמת היא You know what? We'll stop over here, because the next part already belongs to the next chapter, and I want to give it some more time, and we don't have much time for it. But again, the level of a Beinoni is also a true level. Don't think that because when he's relaxing and he has emotional and intellectual feelings and emotion towards God, it goes away. Yeah, don't think it's not a true, it's not a Sfat Emet, it's still a Sfat Emet by the Beinoni. Up to him. Any questions?
Would a righteous person, though, really look down on Beinoni? I can't see that. I can't see that happening. I don't know anything about the characters.
The answer is, think about it. He will not look down. He will still feel kind of sorry for.
Okay.
Think about it. Do you feel sorry for a dog who doesn't have control over his emotions?
Well, I hear what you're saying. Yeah, it's more of a sympathy than a looking down on.
Yeah. Does he want to be one? That's the question. Would he want to be one? The answer is no. Even though there's an advantage of being a Beinoni over a tzaddik.
It kind of reminded me of like an addict or an alcoholic.
That's what a Beinoni is.
They're not
excellent
consuming it, but one false move, or if they see somebody, they could go right back. They could go right back.
Excellent. An addict that says, I'm not an addict anymore, that's the worst thing possible.
Vulnerable.
That's exactly what he tells you. Or even if you don't have even inclination for 20 years, always think that you're an addict. Because if you stop thinking you're an addict, you're going to fall back into it. He's waiting for you. Just a matter of time.